which is kind of odd because if you read that passage, it describes Satan as actually having hooved feet. He does not have red skin and a pointed tail, but he is of the order of the cherubim, which would make him have 4 wings and 4 faces. And so he's a bit odd looking, but God called him beautiful. So under the right circumstances, we might think the same thing. Of course, God made spiders and snakes beautiful too, so it's all a matter, I guess, of your perspective there. So anyway, the other thing about seeing demons is, as far as the Bible's concerned, it took a pretty big deal for God to even peel back, as Roger said, the veil that separates us between the spiritual world. There were a couple of times where God showed man angels, but we don't really have an account, apart from Jesus, seeing Satan, where any man has ever seen a demon or Satan in their original form, as it were. It just doesn't happen. And man's been on the earth, what, approximately 7 millennia, I think, it's something like that. And if so far we haven't seen demons, there's probably not going to be any sightings of them for the next 7. So even though some orders of angels are rather peculiar looking, according to the Word, and Satan would be one of them that's peculiar, you're just never going to see him. Unless God has something real huge, and you're the one that's going to actually be the one doing something. So for you folks that have seen a ghost before, and I know there's some of you out here that I've seen a ghost, I know I've seen a ghost. Well, and one thing we're going to talk about tonight is what you've actually done is imagined what your demon has suggested to you, and that's one of the things. That's why we see things sometimes that aren't there, and we think they're ghosts, and there's shows on TV about ghost hunting and all that kind of stuff. I don't think you've ever caught one on video of that. But the thing is, folks, and you guys know this, when we die, when a human dies, there is no soul sleep, there is no purgatory, there is no non-existent state. Human souls do not hover around and wait for closure. That just doesn't happen. That's just not biblical. If you look in the Bible, and we'll actually get to some scriptures in a little bit, but for the sake of time, we'll try to just quote these to you. We see that Paul says to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. That's 2 Corinthians 5, 7, and 8. And then Jesus, out of Jesus' very lips, when he's speaking of the true story of Lazarus and the rich man, he plainly says in Luke 16, 9, 24, now the rich man died and was buried, and in hell he lifted up his eyes. And just like Roger said a couple of weeks ago, that rich man is still in hell, still looking up. It's kind of a sobering thought. Not a thought for Christmas, really, but it is a reality. All right, so to kind of sum up here, do any of you think that you'd be afraid to see a regular angel? Roger, if God said, I'm going to let you look at a regular angel, do you think you'd be afraid to see him?
I go to Scripture. Every person that saw an angel that God was in, they had to say, be not afraid.
Okay. Well,
they're beautiful.
When the angels came to Abraham about Sodom and Gomorrah, there are a lot of examples in the Bible where angels did not bring about fear. And for most of you, but you're right, that is said most of the time. But would most of you raise your hand and say, yeah, I'd like to see a good angel? Anybody raise their hand and say they'd like to see anybody? Anybody wake out there? Is this thing on? I know you still want Kelsey to come back up here. It's not going to happen, okay? But yeah, and the thing is, folks, as far as we know, there's no biblical it's tough up here, Roger. There's no biblical evidence that when the demons fell, they changed shapes, or they became ugly, or they looked different from the way they were when they fell. There's just no biblical evidence of that. Plenty of Hollywood movies that say that, but it's just not true. So if you're a person tonight that would like to look at, say, an angel that is a good angel, one of the good guys, then if you were to see a demon, it'd be the same thing. It's apples to apples. Right? Okay, so the thing is, and I already stated this, you don't have to fear demons, but what you most certainly have to do is respect their ability. It's a lot like the electricity that's running through our wires in the building here that's keeping the lights on and keeping us good and warm. Electricity is a great thing, pays my check. I love electricity. But if you don't respect electricity, it can come through your body on the way to the ground and kill you dead in a hammer. So, you know, that's